Newer platforms allow for a combination of quantitative changes, a new district with more interiors, more details, diverse architecture, more enemies, with qualitative changes, how the police behave. Hey guys, Dantixy bringing you a Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty update. We know Cyberpunk's major expansion is on the way and can expect it to be of similar scale as Blood and Wine was to Witcher 3, but we truly didn't know just how big of an overhaul it was. Until now. In this video, I translate and go through a detailed interview with Powell Sasko, as well as discuss notes from one of the actresses who had some playtime with the game. Yes, people have got a chance to play it already, which is good news. We'll talk about the complete skill overhaul, cyberware, leveling, multiple endings, police systems, and more. Let's start with Susie Hunter, who landed an acting role in Phantom Liberty as a character named Stella. She got a chance to go hands-on with the game and had a few notes for us. Before we start, thanks to Nvidia's 40 series graphics cards, new tech is available right now in Cyberpunk that makes the graphics absolutely breathtaking without sacrificing frames and even, in my testing, improving them from what they were. I was lucky enough to get my hands on a 4090, and what you're seeing now is overdrive ray tracing and the AI-powered acceleration of Nvidia DLSS 3, so be sure to check it out. My ultimate takeaway is that in the past 3 years, CD Projekt Red have essentially remade the entire game. Every single fundamental and mechanic is improved, like even the character models have been remodeled. This is what we expected after the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, that CD Projekt Red would have to essentially remake the game. It seems like they did just that. Major props. Leveling is now skill-based, so you're unlocking new attacks and abilities, not just getting a small stat increase. Clothes no longer give you stats or armor, unless it's literally armor. Stats come from your cyberware, which places greater emphasis on customization. We can see an example of the skill tree unlocking new abilities here in the character screen. This is the reflex tree, with skills getting new attacks, and there's upgrades to those attacks starting from the bottom and going upwards. You can see that you need 20 reflex to unlock the next tier of skills. The tiers go Rookie, Pro, Phenom, and Legend. There seems like there's less total skills in the reflex tree, but these are mostly all abilities that change how you play. In terms of clothes no longer giving stats, I'm glad this change was made. Style is a big part of the Cyberpunk universe, and a focus on cyberware is exciting. You do have a body limit, so you can't chrome out as much without taking a HP decrease, which makes you actually think about how you customize yourself. The police system is everything you wanted. Max tac come in via dropships, police and gangs now chase each other and you. This does sound like to me that you could chrome yourself out to almost cyber psychosis levels and play as a glass cannon, though I think a balanced approach would be the best. Purists wanting a challenge could opt for a cyberless run and be rewarded with more difficult combat for doing so. I'm interested in this overhauled police system. Nothing short of an overhaul was going to fix them. If true, the base game definitely needs these upgrades. Leveling cyberware on a new skill tree unlocks special abilities like overdriving your gorilla arm punch, smacking enemies into the stratosphere. AI is vastly improved, they block and hide behind cover. I couldn't just run up to a still target and kill it easily. I love the idea of leveling cyberware. It's like your body is becoming accustomed to using them and they get better over time. We definitely needed a reason to pick up the big arm cyberware upgrades like the Mantis blades. AI improvements are coming from the decision to scrap older gen consoles. It seems like it wouldn't have been possible otherwise, and in an interview coming up, he mentions the same thing. The melee combat feels a lot better and dodging is now its own button. You can anime zip to a point now instead of doing that tiny hop. There's also stylish executions on its own button, and you can block bullets with your blade weapons. Seems like in Phantom Liberty it might be time to re-roll a melee build, though I'm sure there'll be a ton of new abilities that will have us wanting to try out everything. And honestly, there's just too many other changes and improvements to recall right now. It's like a brand new game, it's effing great. All of these changes are coming in the base game, it's not just the expansion. The entire game has been redone with this stuff. I'm not too sure if CD Projekt Red will give the base game all these upgrades just yet, but it would be amazing if they do. The reason to purchase Phantom Liberty would be for the new spy thriller type storyline, and we're told by the devs that it will add a new ending to the base game and have multiple endings on its own without spoiling things. Now, there are some juicy details from the man Powell Sasko himself during an interview on Spider's Web, a Polish site, so it will be translated loosely. Keep that in mind. The first question asked is if you can bring the new heavily armed cars into Dogtown, the new area. Powell responds, absolutely. In Phantom Liberty we're adding armed cars. Some vehicles from the base game get weapons, but also many new cars added with the expansion. The armament itself is twofold, either rifles or rockets. We arm not only heavy and armored vehicles, but also luxury cars, a bit like in Bond. In addition, we completely reworked the entire system of buying and selling cars. On the AutoFixer website, you can now buy all kinds of cars, all those that were in the base game and completely new models, as well as their variants with weapons. And then you can do demolition in Dogtown with Phantom Liberty, as well as all over Night City. Of course, the police will respond to this. So expect this spy thriller focused storyline to have tons of James Bond feeling moments. Even though Edris isn't playing Bond in the cinemas, this might be a thumbs up to that. So naturally you won't be able to buy a new car with guns attached to it and just drive around shooting everything, because police will be all over you in the new police upgrade. The police system was completely reworked and we put a lot of work into making it appeal to the players. As you commit more crimes, you collect police stars or their equivalent in Dogtown, where the Barhest keeps order instead of law enforcement. The more stars on the player's account, the stronger forces law enforcement throw in his direction. More police cars and motorcycles appear, and services gain additional opportunities to operate. For example, vehicular police now try to push fleeing players in cars or cut them off. In addition, the officers work together. One van blocks the passage while others try to pin the player's machine to the wall. With 3 stars under their belt, police reach for transport vehicles equipped with androids throwing combat machines against the player. Once the player has 4 stars, the police start setting up barricades and roadblocks. Then the services reach for armed cars. The most interesting, however, is the last 5th level of Pursuit. This is when Max Tack flies into Night City or Dogtown. A flying AV machine appears in the air, smoke grenades are dropped on the ground, and Max Tack operators make a landing. These are services consisting of various enemy archetypes. Some fight hand to hand, some prefer heavy weapons. Max Tack are really tough opponents at a very high level. It's a maximum response unit and the player will be lucky if they take out 1 or 2 of them. Escape is the only way out. Running away from Max Tack is not an easy thing, however. Not only do they have flying machines, but they can also hack the player's vehicles. They then throw you a handgun or start a self-destruct sequence. As a counterbalance, the player can now eavesdrop on NCPD communications so they can know what the police are planning and what districts they're entering. In a word, there's a lot going on in the streets now, and we try to make the players have a lot of fun. Excuse the rough translation, but it all sounds amazing. Maybe now we can truly fear Max Tack like we should have been. Yes, V can be kitted out, but he isn't bordering cyberpsychosis like they are with the latest and greatest gear. Well, one could argue that what's killing V slowly is also keeping the cyberpsychosis away, but you get my point. Max Tack should be badass. At least now it feels like escaping the law is a lot harder. When asked about puncturing tires, yes, absolutely. It's now an important part of road fighting. You're able to get punctures, and there's corresponding status messages when you're flat, and it shows in the 3D environment. Vehicles are still able to run with a flat tire, but they do so much slower. In addition, such cars wear out faster, and at some point it straddles the road, but there's no immediate immobilization. We bet on a more realistic solution, as in life. Here it's worth adding that in addition to shooting tires and drivers, players can use contact weapons. For example, when riding a motorcycle between opponents, the players can take out a katana and use the blade to puncture their tires. I'm sure fans of melee builds will be very pleased with how this all works in practice, especially when combined with our update to expand the knife combat system. I like the idea of riding a bike between cars and slicing up their tires. I really hope this system comes together. In regards to what they have redesigned completely, Powell responds, "In fact, it's hard to point out a significant element that we haven't redesigned. A very big change concerns player development and skills. We're moving away from raw stats a bit and focusing more on actions and abilities so players can create even more diverse builds. A second related issue is all the cyberware. It's also completely altered. The armor was transferred from ordinary clothing to implants in the form of subcutaneous armor. The player now has a limit to the implants his body can take, finally, and this increases with each level. The player can even reach the edge of endurance when he starts to overload with electronics. It's not yet cyberpsychosis, but negative statuses appear. In addition, after visiting the Ripper dock, the player leaves the chair, thanks to which he actually feels like he's undergone some kind of surgery. In addition, the loot system has changed. We tried to make the picked up weapons actually better and more interesting than what the player already has in their inventory. We also changed the system of sellers so that from now on, each of them actually has their own unique offer, including unique equipment from the Dogtown black market. It's illegal, highly overclocked, severely impacts the player's stamina, but in return offers unique statuses and opportunities. We've run through these changes, so it's good to hear that the loot system has been updated and is more rewarding. Many players will gladly take debuffs in exchange for power, and that applies to fresh implants and black market weapons. I'm glad CD Projekt Red are embracing the trade-off humanity for power mentality that's meant to be Cyberpunk. When asked about how the game ties in together, Powell responds with, "Dogtown is just another part of Night City and you'll enter it without any loading screens. There will be no barriers." Anyway, many of the add-ons quests lead the player from the new area to the old Night City. We created many links between the base game and the expansion. Thanks to this, the player will have the impression that Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty are one coherent game. I think it worked out really well for us. Then when asked about abandoning development for PS4 and Xbox One, Powell had the following to say. "Oh my, a complete answer could take several hours. The first thing that comes to mind is the AI changes. Thanks to them, we were able to add real-life chases and completely new police response system to the game. AI requires a lot of processing power. Therefore, new platforms allow for dynamic events in the open world, but also to improve elements such as combat. Now clashes take place with more opponents at the same time than ever before. The scale is much larger. Newer platforms allow for a combination of quantitative changes, a new district with more interiors, more details, diverse architecture, more enemies, with qualitative changes, how the police behave, max hack, squad arrivals, chases and gang fights, even without the player's participation. I've been saying this from the start, but Cyberpunk should never have been developed for the previous generation consoles, and I'm sorry to say that's why I kept it back. I'm glad they scrapped it and decided to really expand on the title and give it the treatment it deserved. Finally, what is Powell most proud of? I'm most proud of our espionage history. It's something fresh, different, and done in a new way. We've never told such a story, and I am very pleased with how it turned out. I mean here not only the main plot, but also side quests, also focusing on spy vibes. Being a spy or an agent, however, can be very different. We play with the form and approach it in different ways. Phantom Liberty is a little Ocean's 11, a little Bond, a little Bridge of Spies. Various shades that we mix. I'm very pleased with the final result. As a classic Bond fan from way back when I was a kid, this resonates with me. In fact, all that was discussed resonates with me. It seems that Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty will be the ultimate overhaul of the game, and those who love the lore, the aesthetic, or the vibe may want to jump back in when it releases. And that's everything. What did you think? What are you most excited about? Let me know below. And until next time guys, ciao friends.